Oh my goodness. It's 2025, everybody.
Oh, it's a new year.
New year. Our first episode of the new year.
Oh my God, that's right.
It's wonderful.
Old acquaintance be forgot. I wish we could forget Donna.
Donna, I'm glad you were able to make it to 2 shifts in a row.
Hey, great. Thank you. Me too.
Yeah.
Thanks for showing up.
Pretty good for someone with a traumatic brain injury.
Okay, thanks, Teddy.
Shut up.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all the things.
Yeah. We already wished him a Merry Christmas, but the Happy New Year, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm bored with her.
Oh my
No,
God.
what?
Stop.
Let's get a new host.
People were glad
it's a
she
new
was
year,
back.
Bobby. A new host for a new whatever the fuck she's supposed to
A
be.
new year, a
She
new
ain't a
host. Oh, I see it.
She should be a ghost.
Jesus.
We should get rid of her. She should be dead.
Episode 49.
49.
You guys remember what we're doing?
No.
We're doing our first Intruder Theory suspect episode, where we are going to focus on a specific intruder theory that I, Bobby Pavlovsky, find plausible. This is just my opinion.
It's possible?
I believe it is. It's something that hasn't been fully explored by a lot of others, so I'm excited to share with you guys.
A new angle. Okay.
A new
The first time you put your finger in your butthole, help you.
I don't know why you got to do that
That's
in the
not what
first
he
few
said.
minutes.
What do you mean?
I got to be so heavy on the bleep button in the first few minutes because you just can't control it for just a little bit.
You have your finger on your mouth.
I'm in
like,
control.
Just, like, into it.
Now,
I'm
the
here.
Christian moms on YouTube don't like it, where it's like obscene language right at the start.
Christian
Right.
moms don't like me.
I mean, I think there's a lot of moms that don't like you. It's not limited to Christians. But, so yeah, you guys excited for the episode?
Yeah, I guess I'm moderately excited.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, I'm looking forward to the 50th
Yes,
episode.
absolutely.
You know, part of the audience's enthusiasm also comes from you. Where it's
Oh my
like, if you
God.
pump them up, that's why all those stupid YouTube kids yell.
Right, sell it, Teddy.
Yeah, you got to
Jesus.
sell it. If you're like not excited, then
You
why
just
the
attacked
fuck
me.
should they be?
You just
That's
made,
no
you made it sound like
enthusiasm.
people don't like me.
I just said certain mothers don't.
My mother?
Oh my God.
No, your mother
My mother
loves
did
you.
love me. Yeah, the only way you're showing it.
Yeah, she loved
She's
you.
she's your biggest
Now get
cheerleader.
back, get
She
back
asks
to
me for money all the time.
Well, that's
Yeah.
that's
I
a
don't-
special.
That's love.
Sure.
I love. I mean, you know.
Sure.
She kept a running ledger of all the baby food she fed me and the Burger King chicken fries.
She
and
kept
so
a
now you're
ledger.
square.
the Sandy
You're
Minis. Remember
square
Sandy
now.
Minis?
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
she
said
she
you're
kept a
gonna pay
ledger.
me back one day,
Oh, gross.
and I'm like, I'm dying. This is my birth mother,
His blood mom.
Wanda. Yeah, you know Wanda.
Blood mom.
I don't.
You know Wanda.
I don't. Can we do? I mean,
She's
we-
wheelchair.
we
She's-
were
she's
we were
homebound.
we were right at the sweet spot where we just needed to say the intro.
Well, welcome to the show, everybody.
I guess it's a
Intro.
teaser. Hey, everybody, you're gonna hear more about Teddy's birth mom after and our first Intruder Theory suspect episode.
Oh
So,
yeah.
I'm
That's a big.
curious.
Now I'm excited.
There we
Right.
go.
Now
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about your mom.
Intruder
This is
theory,
new.
Wanda theory. Let's do it.
All right. Well, hey,
Yes.
I'm Bobby Pavlovsky.
And I'm Teddy Ronald Reagan, just making you.
And this is
JonBenet today. Thank you. JonBenet news. JonBenet news.
Extra.
So we got it out in the press recently that John's put out a statement that he has plans to meet with current Boulder City Police Chief Stephen Redfern,
Oh.
and he's going to be accompanied by a DNA company representative.
John Ramseys, he's still alive. He's going to
Yeah.
meet with police chief.
The guy who's been touting for the past year, like
Yeah.
we saw back in June when he was going to Crime Con, that he's saying like the police are just waiting for me to die.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Interim Chief Redfern at the time had to release the statement saying, I've been communicating with John about this matter. I've been keeping up to date. This has never came up.
Yeah. I mean, John's saying one thing to the public,
Yeah.
trying to garner some kind of sympathy and also make it kind of look like, oh, they don't want to interact or cooperate.
And then this documentary comes out by Netflix at the end of November where they say, hey, the police are just sitting on evidence and
God,
not
that fucking
testing it.
documentary pissed me off.
When really the reality is, because the Boulder police had to release a statement basically where they're like, hey, we have been working with people to test stuff.
Yeah.
But they're always been bound by the fact that they can't speak out because it's an open investigation.
Right.
This actually happened back when the grand jury stuff got released.
Oh.
When it finally came out.
Back in like
by that.
2014.
Yeah, the governor at the time even released a statement where he's basically like, we're relieved that finally this information came out because it's a thing where we are not able to speak about it. But like now you all kind of know. So again, John's been denying that the Boulder police and him have been talking and that they're not testing. Now John has came out and said that he's got a meeting set up this January.
Oh, that's this month, Bobby.
That is this month with a representative, which we know it's going to be from Othram.
Oh, from the DNA lab.
That they've been shilling this whole time.
This whole thing of we need independent DNA, and it happens to be Othram, which works with that fucking
this
crime
company
complex.
we own, blah,
And,
blah, blah.
and John's basically in the press, how he's said the meeting's going is that they're going there offering assistance.
Sure.
Where it's a thing of, again, they've already addressed it publicly, like, hey, we're working with companies to do this. But John's putting on his whole show of, yeah, we're coming to help you out. Here's Othram. And
It's obviously a conflict of interest. Like, Jesus.
There's obviously something stinky there because, it just the whole scheme seems to be that they're trying to get hands on, certain pieces of DNA or have some kind of like definitive say on things. That's what I don't like with the privatization of some of this
I don't
shit.
either. And from what I understand, by the way, when they test the samples, if they do get a hold of it, that destroys the sample.
Oh my God.
So I've also seen they have a history of solving crimes where it ends up being somebody that's, dead.
Ow.
Somebody that was in prison, but now they're dead. I've seen one case so far where the person was still alive and they used it in their trial.
Wow.
But most of the cases are that the people are dead. And I've even had John speculate on a show, which I'll put the clip here.
So as far as we know, the killer is still out there?
Oh, he is, of course. Now, he may be in prison, he may be dead, but he's out there.
But you need justice.
And we need justice, absolutely.
Where it's like that, yeah. And so it's like a thing of, I don't want it to be a thing where the Ramseys are kind of, selling out, possibly again, which we're going to talk about in the episode, in a way of, they cover up something so much that now it's obfuscated forever. Where like, maybe this is a private company where it's like, you pay enough money, we'll pin your thing on a dead guy. Or maybe the sample is relevant and maybe it will lead to a suspect. And maybe that suspect is the person we're going to be talking about in this episode.
Or do you need to stop looking at us and to start looking for the person who actually did it?
But please don't just investigate us, because if you do, we're never going to find the killer.
I have a faith that comes from only one source. God knows who killed JonBenet Ramsey. Steve Thomas does not know, Patsy Ramsey does not know, and John Ramsey does not know. God knows, and the truth is going to prevail.
The Ramseys have been saying that for years. And in this episode, we're going to consider what if what they were saying was actually true.
Like that they actually...
What if they looked beyond certain things and actually focused on the evidence? What if that was true? Like the Intruder people have always been saying. But in this episode, we're going to be proposing a different kind of intruder theory.
We're going to have a proposal. Someone's getting married.
Nope. Not like that. Not like that.
Like a different angle.
Yes. Sometimes.
Yeah.
It's
different angle.
It's seldom seen online, but it's referred to as the friendly intruder theory.
Friendly intruder theory.
We've covered before on our Blue Crab episode the Doug Stein theory with Nathan. And for me, my kind of hang up on that is Blue Crab getting hung up on Nathan being a part of the Asian coalition.
Oh, yeah, and the anniversary and all that kind of shit, and the one dot.
But I liked where he was going with Doug Stein being over there, and that's a possibility that we have explored in a different episode.
So, Bobby, wait. Oh.
Yeah.
Friendly intruder, there's a difference between that and a regular intruder. Friendly intruder, they're gonna...
They were either invited or the
someone
people,
you know.
or exactly the person that was in the home was someone they knew.
All right.
And those are the suspects that we're going to explore. Again, I've been looking into this for about a month now.
They knew people, obviously.
They did know people.
So maybe a person they know did it.
Exactly, and that's the whole crux of this episode. But, but before we present the suspects first, I've realized that I need to present this in a different way first. I need to establish John and Patsy's role in this friendly intruder theory scenario first.
Okay.
Okay?
That's fair.
What I want to first go back to is Christmas night. After they leave the Steins, they're driving home.
Okay.
We know that the Ramseys have a different recollection of events. They've changed from the initial report where it was, JonBenet walked up the stairs. We put her to bed,
at this time.
John read to them kind of stuff. And then it's changed to like, she was dead asleep in the car kind of thing. Yeah.
And it moved earlier in the night too.
So for this theory, by the way, what I want to explain is what I think happened here is that the Ramseys, it really comes down to bad parenting that night. I don't think the Ramseys actually put anyone to bed that night.
They can't say for sure. Like if they saw their kids' heads hit the pillow, they can't say that.
That's it exactly. I think it all chalks up to bad parenting. We've seen that the kids are always left to do what they want.
Okay.
Which would explain why they have different recollections of things.
Oh, so you mean to say that instead of either of them like putting their kids to sleep, changing pajamas, all that kind of stuff,
Helping Burke with a toy,
reading a book story, or
John doesn't. Number one, Burke doesn't need his help, and
Right.
John wouldn't participate in an activity like that.
It's not like Burke was 2 years old and it was a little Tyke's garage or some shit.
But if there was a routine, they wouldn't question it.
So what you're saying is that they have the discrepancies because they didn't actually do anything. What they do instead, then?
I think they just went to bed. I think John probably went up to bed. Patsy maybe started getting other stuff ready for the trip. Okay. Because actually earlier that day, John recounts in that book that he went to the airport to pack their luggage for the Charlevoix trip.
Oh. So he put the luggage in the plane.
Exactly.
Handed it off.
While Burke and all his friends were playing and JonBenet and them were all at the house.
So what would Patsy be packing?
Well, it could have been for the cruise. Because that could have been the thing where people have now talked about how they weren't going to take all this stuff at the cruise, where they were actually going to come back from Charlevoix to Boulder to get their other stuff.
Oh, okay.
So it could have been for that.
She was packing because she knew that when they came back, they were going to have to grab those bags and then go down to Florida or whatever.
It's travel we're not used to.
They go on multiple trips. I mean, that's what they do in their way.
Whatever.
But also, maybe all of that was bullshit. John already recounts the fact that he packed this stuff or whatever. What I'm saying is I think they went to bed and they don't know when the kids went to bed, which is why their accounts differ.
Okay,
Right,
I'm following.
right.
Okay, you still following him?
Yeah, so they didn't know
All
to go to bed.
So you're putting yourself in that mindset, all right?
Yeah.
Now imagine you wake up, not at 5:30 in the morning like you've told everyone else.
All right.
Much earlier, okay? One of you wakes up first, whatever. But you find JonBenet, she's been strangled. She's possibly in the wine cellar.
She dead.
She's dead.
I wake up early in the morning.
And
my
maybe
daughter
4:30.
JonBenet
Yeah.
is dead.
And your daughter's dead.
Oh
What would your first instinct be?
Oh God, I don't know.
Maybe there's a note right now. Maybe there isn't. But what would your first instinct be?
I mean, I don't have to pack for the cruise no more.
I'd ask
Jesus,
for
Teddy.
help.
Right,
I'd ask for help. I would go to my,
maybe. But would you not try to go and question your son?
No, right away.
Last time you
Not
saw
right
your
away?
kids, they was awake,
No,
and now
I
you
would
wake up
talk
and
to
what?
the other adult in the room first.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm
Right.
saying they've both now been aware of the situation. I'm saying, would you question your child as for, hey, did anything happen? Because we know from the accounts that we've posted before that they have apparently not talked about what happened that night.
He's a good adult. He was a good son. If he knew anything, it would not be something he would thought
is important.
important.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I wonder if there's something in there, like, even, so I know in the Dr. Phil, one of the things that came out was the idea that you used a flashlight to put him to sleep and that he came back down to play with a toy. Like, when he's down and people are sleeping, has he ever talked, like, did he get the sense that someone else was in the home? Did he hear anything? I don't know how long was he up?
No, we've never asked him that. I don't know. I didn't know, frankly, that he got up again. I'm not sure he did. Again, that's fiction. There's so much fiction out there.
Because it's just thrown out there. It's just Dr. Phil who says, you got up to play with the toy, and Burke says, yeah, I did. It was something that I wanted to put together. And then it kind of just like
Well,
away.
you know, again, when we got home, JonBenet had fallen asleep.
But I know you and Burke came.
I put her to bed. Burke and I sat down and tried to put together one of his little toys for a little while, just because he wanted to. And then he went off to bed.
You're saying like that whatever Dr. Phil said and Burke said on the show, he didn't come back down?
And I think your dad had said he used the flashlight that night to put you to bed, and then you snuck downstairs to play.
Yeah, I had some toy that I wanted to put together. I remember being downstairs after everyone was kind of in bed and wanting to get this thing out.
I didn't know that he came back down if he did.
Does
He
stuff
may
like
have-
that make you want to be like, oh my gosh, maybe there's something he knows?
Burke would have said something if something was weird, but
Okay.
he may have misunderstood the question too. That
I remember being downstairs after everyone was kind of in bed and wanting to get this thing out.
So,
Misunderstood the question.
we had posted this before
God.
in more support of a Burke did it theory.
Right.
I want people to know, because we posted this and it's gotten pretty viral too, looking at it through a different lens of this being a situation where Burke is blindly defending his father when he's first confronted with a thing, where he's being told like, oh, Dr. Phil said, hey, your dad said he put you to bed with a flashlight and then you snuck downstairs. And Burke going, yes. As a more of a defense mechanism for his father, where he hears that like, oh, his dad did this, much like he has done before with the basement window.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Where it came up that he was like, oh, and then Burke places himself there, where he's like, oh, yeah, I was there, but you were really at camp. So looking at it through that lens, but also looking at it as a parent, where so many people have even commented on this clip as it's been up, like, how do you not talk to your kid?
Right.
That's
Exactly.
the thing. That's what I think everyone's avoiding here, is that they did talk to him. They did ask him. And
it wasn't good.
Well, he denied it, is the thing. But that's the thing, is like, you can't be public about, oh yeah, we suspect our son.
Oh, like they saw, like, okay, so they woke up earlier than the purported time. They stumbled, or one of them, both aware that JonBenet's dead body's there. They go to Burke too, because they suspect, like, oh my God, what happened? What did you do? But and then he denies it.
Exactly.
And maybe tells them something else. But no matter what,
else,
they can't.
he's just denying it. That's the thing. But you're, as a parent, no matter what do you do in that situation?
Right.
You're gonna have the doubt. You're gonna think it was him.
But you're gonna fix it.
That's the
Like,
point, and
that's
that's
the
what
thing.
I mean.
And also, you can't tell nobody about
Right.
that. You can't up to your own son
Because-
asking, did he do it?
And you don't know for maybe possibly the
Because
first
that's
week.
what like
Okay.
parenthood does. Like it makes it so that like you are willing to like cross those lines. Like you're willing. Like I mean, anyone in that moment.
And Dr. Phil even
Right.
asked Burke about this.
Part of their rationale, these people say you are the only one that your parents would go to the lengths that they went to cover up everything that happened. They're talking about fabricating this ransom note. They're talking about if she was strangled, then causing the head injury. All of this cover up was all done to protect you because they didn't want to lose 2 children. That's their theory.
I don't know if to say that because I know that's not what happened. There's been a few people that said that's not even physically possible for a 9-year-old to do that. Like you won't find any evidence because that's not what happened. I know I didn't do it.
Brent.
Well, his parents made sure there would be no evidence.
There's no
But that's
evidence.
the thing.
It's not
So,
Bible.
so they would cover up
Right.
for him.
The 9-year-old
Like
you
with
can't kill another
confidence,
child.
like he was
Come
able
on.
to say that.
But
like,
that's what. So my thing is, what I'm saying is like, what if like obviously for the whole first week, you're really actually not sure if Burke did it, which would explain a lot of their behavior. We have the whole jar thing where he's been quoted as saying the day after that he would ask for forgiveness.
Oh, that's right. He did say that. Like, so maybe he thought it was his brother at the time.
Exactly. What if? Because again, they only have a very limited amount of time from when they wake up and they find her. Possibly, I think, contact someone. John again worked for this company that was, a subsidiary of Lockheed Martin.
Yeah.
And this person probably warned them, hey, no matter what, you guys can't be the ones to find the body. Which would explain why they're calling the police and then right after calling neighbors over. Number one, to get Burke out of the house.
Yeah.
And number two, because they need somebody else to find the body.
Yeah.
But nobody finds the body.
Yeah.
And so for the people, there's a lot of people out there where they get lost at, if you thought your child just murdered you know, somebody else, why would you send him out of the house?
Right. I always wondered that myself as too.
So a great answer that I've seen to that is, number one, think about what we've just talked about. If they've questioned him and no matter what, he's denying it. He's saying he didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So they've now taken the steps to possibly cover it up, but knowing they need to get him out of the house so he can't be questioned.
And also that maybe they don't know if they really believe him.
Right. But the thing is, otherwise, the alternative is that Burke hangs around the house, where we know he'll be disassociated because just that's how he is.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because he killed her, but just because he's a weird kid. They know how weird will come off that they're like, oh, he'll be playing N64 the whole time. Detectives will note that, and he will be available for questioning.
He's like socially detached.
But he'll be able to be questioned by detectives if he stays there.
He can answer basic questions, but
they don't
not
want him
like-
to.
That's the thing.
Exactly,
they know how it'll come off because obviously,
they're like, don't talk.
But that's what I'm saying is they obviously suspected him too. They don't want the police to,
right?
Because they haven't worked out whether or not he did it. He's just been denying it.
I'm following.
You're following so
Yeah,
far?
yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I
Because
got
we're gonna
it.
go back to that.
Okay.
Because what if the situation is they actually do come to terms with shortly after this murder that Burke didn't do it? And this childish crime scene that they came upon was actually caused by
a friendly intruder.
Here's how John's put it.
So why wouldn't they test it? They tried very hard to explain away why there was foreign male DNA in a number of JonBenet's clothing items. It would be in their best interest to test it, find out that it belonged to one of Burke's little friends that happened to be there, or
who happened to be there?
Or maybe not Burke.
What?
God, she's so fucking stupid.
Burke's
I
little
cannot
friends.
stand you.
And like I said, we
God damn it, Bobby! Can we get a new fucking co-host lady?
Oh my God, stop.
She's worse. She's horrible. I'd rather have a fucking, like, I don't know, roadkill fucking.
All right, Teddy.
I think she
all
might
right,
be-
all
All
right,
right,
that's enough.
I think she might be drunk or something. It's fine. But anyway, everyone else is following us.
She
And
hits
it's-
me.
But it's the thing of what I'm saying is here, taking John at his word here. Well, what if it's a thing of, testing Burke's little friends?
That's one of Burke's little friends who happened to be there, he said.
Right.
The fuck's that mean? Happened to be there.
That's the thing. That's what we're going to get into. Two, or possibly just one, suspects for this episode. So, for, legal purposes, I want to introduce you guys to the Taylor siblings.
Taylor siblings, Home Improvement, Tim Taylor's children with Jill.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget Jill.
No, absolutely.
She was the backbone of that family, Bobby.
Right, wholesome show.
So, starting from the youngest, we have Mark, who is 10 years old, same age as Burke, okay? These are neighborhood friends of Burke. And
Okay.
We'll get to more of that in a
Mark.
second. Mark, yeah. And we got that picture up right there, so you get the picture. Okay? And then we have the 13-year-old Randy.
Randy.
Mm-hmm.
Randy. The boy, the brother.
He's the other brother, right.
Right.
There's a 16-year-old sister named Brad.
Instead of Bridget or whatever.
Shut the fuck up.
Well, it's for the purposes of people understanding this, okay?
Okay.
We're trying to
Mark,
make
Randy,
it...
Brad. Everybody knows Mark, Randy, and Brad.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And so I want everybody to know that the only information that we have about these siblings is from police interviews with the Ramseys.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the only picture that we have built of their home life. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's not a very...
What did Ramsey say?
It's a pretty picture. So here's one of the first interviews that we're going to go to.
Okay.
It's with Tom Haney and Patsy Ramsey, okay? This is in reference to the fact that they spent a lot of time at the house. Tom goes, you mentioned they're quite a bit older than your kids, right? Well, oh shit, I said the name already. Well, you mentioned the Taylors. They're quite a bit older than your kids, right? Well, Mark was nearly Burke's age. He was like a year older. And Randy was 2-3 years older, but very young acting, like still rollerblading and Nintendo and that kind of thing. And they spent a lot of time there? Yeah. And how about the older brother? Was it Brad? Brad was the daughter. Daughter? Yeah. Did she spend time there or babysit? Patsy says she would come down usually just to get Mark. Seemed like he practically lived at our house, She would come down and get him.
Okay, so Mark and Brad and Randy were neighbors.
They were neighbors, but Mark and Randy would hang out there. Mostly Mark.
Yeah.
Around, Burke's age, and she says, he was practically lived there. She would also later attribute the dump in the toilet through a police interview that we'll have on the screen.
Oh, yeah.
To possibly being Burke's friend, Mark.
Oh, the poop in the toilet in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Might have been Mark's poop. You got poop in your toilet, Mark.
Apparently, Mark had a little bit of a bad influence on Burke. Apparently, he taught Burke how to go to the bathroom outside. And they were even questioned about an incident in which the housekeeper that they had at the time, not Linda Hoffman Pugh, came out to find that Mark was exposing himself to Burke.
Oh my God, with his penis?
With his penis. Well, Trip DeMuth does ask Patsy, he's like, did Burke also have his pants down? And she said, I don't think I heard that.
Oh.
So it wasn't
I don't think I heard that.
a reciprocal thing. And it would turn out again that Mark is the person that John has always talked about in regards to this kid that was peeping up JonBenet's skirt.
Oh my God. Their neighbor kid, like Mark, who was Burke's age, he was doing things like peeing outside and teaching Burke
and showing Burke his penis.
Showing Burke his pee-pee.
And he was just right next door.
And John says that he also was looking up JonBenet's skirt. Skirt.
And again, that's more for Mark. Really only Randy comes in because these kids were there Christmas Day. Playing with Burke.
What?
Yeah, Mark and Randy were there Christmas Day playing Nintendo 64 with Burke. These are the children that were at the house.
They were playing the new Nintendo 64 that he got for that Christmas.
Exactly. But their home life, as is also later explored in the interrogations, is not described necessarily as good. Both John and Patsy have made mentions of Brad, the 16-year-old...
the sister Brad.
The sister Brad, she was actually the stepsister from the mother's previous marriage.
Oh, wow.
There's an instance where she would just sit on this tire swing outside the house for hours.
Just alone?
Just alone for hours, not wanting to go back inside.
It makes me so emotional.
And it's like, what was going on inside the house? Patsy, from John's account, has described the house as basically being a mattress on the floor type place, where the kids are left to dress themselves.
Oh, no.
And if you've seen, I've seen more recent Reddit posts of people who have talked about driving through the neighborhood and being struck by the fact of how, mixed income kind of areas it is. And again, like I said, this is all coming from the Ramseys, so we can take it with a grain of salt. And when they're presenting this information, they're more being asked about it. It's not like when they're trying to present other people as suspects.
Okay.
John also details an incident with the father of the family. We'll call him Tim.
Tim
Taylor.
Tim Taylor.
Yeah. He worked for the state of Colorado, basically.
Okay.
He's very much an environmentalist person who's, we'll go into his future, but he's written a lot of op-eds for the Boulder Daily Camera.
Okay. He likes cranes and storks.
And he's handy.
Well, just the environment.
Wetlands.
The environment. John, for some reason, finds it necessary to point out that he takes the bus everywhere. And the one incident that he kind of had with him was where the guy told him that when he's teaching the kids how to ride a bike, he pushes them so they fall off, so they know what it feels like to fall down.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, my God.
That is the type of fatherhood that people exhibit.
That's aggressive.
And that the other incident that John accounts is that basically that guy freaked out one time when Burke came over there with a water gun, that they don't do any sort of fake guns.
Because I think it's a real gun.
It's not just like the violence, the environment, like this guy's taking the bus, it's like a thing of whatever.
Huh.
But again,
people let the parent out the parent.
We have a picture of this very kind of almost unsupervised life of these children where, one of them, Mark, the younger one, is the same age as Burke, but he's exposing him to all these, things where he's having him go to the bathroom outside, showing him his penis possibly, kind of thing.
Peer pressuring.
Little grooming.
But also these kids who live the exact opposite life of the Ramseys. And they were there Christmas Day to come over and play with Burke and his new Nintendo 64. They were there, and that's the thing. It's like they're playing with them, kind of thing. And they have all these nice toys, and it's like, what did they get for Christmas, kind of thing. And I think Burke possibly only got one controller, so it's very much watching this kid play, not
game.
Necessarily sharing, but watch how cool I can do this kind of thing.
He's not gonna hand it over. He just got it.
And so what I want to propose is what if, when the Ramseys decided, we got to leave for Fleet White's party, these children decided to come back over. Because here is as you guys keep asking, their proximity to the Ramsey home.
Let me see. Oh my God.
It's like
Are you kidding?
It's just the back alley.
It's right there.
You can see everything. And anybody that's been through there, there's numerous posts where it's a thing of you can see through all these windows of the house.
Oh my God, yeah.
There's no curtains.
The
at this
catty
time.
corner.
They're right there. And so these kids,
they're right there.
what we're about to propose and talk about, this Mark and Randy, what if they decided to go back over to the Ramsey house that day after the Ramseys left? They certainly would be able to see if the Ramseys actually left. And they also had possibly the access. Because one of the other things from the Dr. Phil and Burke interview, we've talked about how the flashlight, that's the first time it's ever came up where Dr. Phil says, I think you're dead, put your together.
That's right.
The flashlight. Never talked about before. Here's another thing that's never been talked about before from the Burke interview.
How would they have broken into the house, do you think?
You know, I've heard the basement window. I remember for a long time, I think I unlocked the front door during Christmas Day, and I always felt bad about doing that. Not that a locked door would stop somebody if they wanted to do something like that.
What?
And that's never...
What?
Like the flashlights.
I never fucking heard that in my life.
That's what I'm saying.
What?
Expanded upon.
He said he unlocked the front door on Christmas Day.
Again.
Right.
Again. And it's not a thing of where he says like, oh, I always thought for a long time and then I remembered I didn't. It's just left at...
It wouldn't have stopped
And then
him.
it's rationalized that like, oh, well, even if I did, if somebody really wanted to get in.
Yeah.
But that's said with the belief of somebody who possibly didn't actually kill his sister, but does have the guilt of leaving that door unlocked where these kids
Oh my
are
God.
able to see right through the alley. Mark and Randy, these kids.
And they walked right on in because Burke left the door unlocked. In this,
Which was probably
oh my God.
always unlocked. It was normal for them.
Sure, Donna.
Oh, great.
Whatever
Thanks,
helps you
Teddy.
fucking comprehend.
They came over there all the time.
He has
That's
neighbor
what I'm
kid
saying.
friends,
They
and
came
he
over,
unlocked
like,
the door for
was
them.
always open for
But he
them.
knew that while they were over. Wait, but was he there when they were there?
It was normal.
Who?
Burke and bang, bang, bang.
Well, that's first, we're starting at the beginning where we're saying after the Ramseys leave and these kids decide to go over to this home and have unfettered access for possibly several hours.
Well, I think that when we left in the late afternoon to go to the Whites for dinner, that possibly this person was watching our house, watched us leave, and came into the house at that time. So there were a window of several hours of time where he could have familiarized himself with the house, where JonBenet's bedroom was, where our bedroom was, where the basement was, before we returned home. I believe that the ransom note was probably very likely written at that time. We had paper and pens all over the place, so they were available. And then I think the person was there when we returned home that night.
Bobby?
So,
Bobby?
they're looking more, professional type of thing of like scouting the house. But what if it's not a thing of like to get in there and familiarize yourself? What if it's a thing of like, I want to get in there and play that Nintendo 64. I want to see, we know they're going to be leaving for a little bit. Maybe they didn't even leave is also a possibility. Because I've tried to actually look for their accounts of, what was the preparation for finally leaving the house. And in the Death of Innocence book, again, it's John's detailed trip of going to the airport to check the plane and do like the pack it up shit. And then it's him coming back and being like, then we were going to the party. So maybe they left, maybe they didn't leave, maybe they did. But either way, if they were able to come back, play with this Nintendo 64, unfettered access to this house. We have the 2 Coca-Cola cans in Burke's sink. Shit, if you want to be if there's a lot of people that again believe in the fecal smearing thing. And it's like, what if this was these children doing this?
They fecal smeared on.
Because we have the open presents that have always been unexplained in the basement. And these kids, going down there, peeping through, they know the presents are down there.
And there's a poop in the toilet.
And we know, we know Mark, well, not smearing shit on the
Right.
presents. I'm talking about the open presents.
Okay.
But we know that Mark has pooped in the basement, so he's been down there. So it's a thing of they're maybe just not misunderstanding, but I mean like they're just not thinking hard enough of like, it's not to familiarize themselves with the house. Imagine 2, young kids who have the exact opposite life that are now, they spent the day there and they're like,
they roaming throughout the house.
and obviously your Christmas wasn't good enough because you're over there.
Oh yeah. You don't even get Super Soaker.
You got like an RC car or something because there was a thing of John detailing kids playing that outside, an RC car. Wow. But so
in that alley,
unfettered access to the home. Okay, they could explain the open presence. That could explain, the whole thing with Burke saying he left the door unlocked.
I mean, Bobby, hearing even Patsy talk about that quote with the idea or the context that maybe she's trying to get around saying, oh, here's these kids who probably were in there. And Burke saying, oh, here's an open door. I unlocked the door. It's like, when did you unlock that door on Christmas Day, Burke? You unlock it in the afternoon, you unlock it at night.
It's just always unlocked.
You
like you can't say.
So like the details of Mark and Randy being in the home, I'm not completely married to. But I do open myself to consideration that there's a possibility that they could have also written the note. If you look at the note from the perspective of, a child writing it, I could, again, it doesn't fall apart on this at all. But I'm just saying, if you look at the note from like a child's writing perspective, it almost makes sense. Number one for me, one reason. And again, it could be a thing where Patsy possibly rewrote the note later. We're going to get to that and why the reasons if she would do that. But if you look at the amount, for me, that would make sense. If it's a thing, if you have rich neighbors, you guys are probably these latchkey kids that can watch whatever movies you want. You're really creative. Don't underestimate the mind of a 13-year-old child.
They seem bad boys.
The first paragraph is actually riddled with, again, that's where the misspellings are. And it almost seems like that was where the first part was. And then only then is when they start to go into bigger words, like adequate size attaché. We know John's dictionary was also open. So it's a thing of maybe somebody started a note. I'm just saying maybe these kids have a half-brained idea that they want
to really go for it.
Exactly. Maybe it just even started as a prank. Because again, we know this note would have taken at least 22 minutes from somebody who knew what they were kind of doing.
It takes time to write.
But again, none of it really fucking makes sense at all. And I'm not married to it, but I'm just saying keep it open to possibility because they've been very fucking gun-ho as far as like the reason of why it's not them. Like even like if they wrote the fucking note and then being so
who's they?
I'm
the Ramseys?
Patsy, the Ramseys.
Oh, all right.
And it's almost like re-seeing this clip in a different light too.
Well, there's obviously a couple of references, I think, to something that people think came from a couple of movies, which would lend one to think that it might be maybe a younger person who watches a lot of movies.
Her saying
which
that
could be
makes
like
me
bad
think it's more like her.
Which is honestly fair. This is a part of this whole theory that I'm not necessarily married to, that these kids wrote the note in that time. But it would make sense for the time frame and that they, it's a weird, like...
When would they have written the note?
Anytime in the 5 hours that they had access to the home, where they could have been sitting at John's desk where we saw that there was the weird scribbles on a magazine where somebody put a heart around him and like an X around other investigators.
So this is my question, Bobby.
Yeah.
If they wrote it sometime while they were in the home, like, was that before John Ramsey or before JonBenet was injured?
Yes, this is well before anybody comes home.
Why would they write a ransom letter saying they kidnapped JonBenet then?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, hear me out. That's what I'm saying. In the way of they may be in some weird, half-hearted, half-brained thing. Like, not necessarily something they're going to go through with. Okay. Just as kids realize where it's like, oh, it's this Christmas where look at this, like all this wealth and like let's don't have.
Kidnap JonBenet.
Yeah, maybe our parents just took us to go see Ransom because they don't give a shit. But we are smarter than these people, and
Question.
Question.
Just double checking the age of these kids real quick. Can you
10 and 13.
10
and 13. Okay, but they again latchkey kids. Okay, and again, not married necessarily to the note aspect of it, but there being some sort of resentment because we've always heard the thing from John saying, it's somebody that was either very angry of you or very jealous of you.
So that's right.
And if you re-look at the note through a lens of a 10 to 13-year-old kid where it doesn't really make sense, where again, maybe they weren't even initially going to do this.
Okay,
but when they possibly tried to go execute this plan later, it was like, well, we already have this, whatever. And again, not married to the fact that the kids did it, but for me, there's a lot of things that would make sense if not even this version of it, possibly a different version of it, was drafted. But what I do propose is that there was a time where they either stayed there by the time the Ramseys got home or took the time to go back and get other stuff. We know that they have the rope that was found in John Andrews' bedroom that nobody's been able to source what that was originally for.
Right. Oh, yeah. Where'd that come from?
Exactly. So, as we've discussed before, the Ramseys not keeping track of anything that was going on that night. We've also already discussed in Burke's episode, he would have been married to that Nintendo 64.
Oh, absolutely.
And we're just considering the possibility here, is all I'm asking you to, is in the situation where he doesn't know anything, he actually just goes to bed. Mark and Randy are in the house. They possibly do something where they're trying to catch her, whatever. They're children. These aren't fully developed minds. Where they're going to do something. Maybe even just assault her. And that's why they take her down to the basement or something like that.
Into a,
But I'm saying maybe it goes wrong.
They do something with JonBenet. It goes wrong. Burke doesn't even know about it?
Burke doesn't even know about it. Which would explain again why later on when he's questioned, it's a thing where you see this childish crime scene and staging of it, where it's a thing of you're obviously going to want to talk to your kid.
Yeah, obviously, but they didn't talk to Burke because they worried.
I think they did talk to him.
Well, they talked to him, but they probably didn't believe that he didn't have anything involved with it.
Exactly.
But Burke possibly didn't have nothing involved with it.
Yes.
He might have just maybe left the front door unlocked or something like that. But these
For
kids,
two jealous friends,
Brad and Mark.
Randy and Mark,
they killed JonBenet.
With the opportunists.
on accident. I don't think it was on purpose.
While they were trying to do some sort of
but it would explain the sexual assault stuff too.
Ransom scheme.
But the thing is, then you got John and Patsy who wake up and find this. And so you question your son. He's going to deny it. You consult with somebody high profile who's going to tell you, you can't be the ones to find the body. And they probably wiped it down. I think somebody went and got the blankets from the second floor dryer, made it so she wasn't just laying on the cold cellar floor.
Yeah.
Probably John, while Patsy maybe wrote the note or rewrote the note. Because their confidence in her not being the author is astounding to me. But again, this scenario doesn't live or die on whether or not these kids wrote the note.
Right.
No matter what, it's the scenario if they wake up and think Burke did it. But what if he didn't do it? And before we get into the where the Taylor family is now, I feel like it's a good point to tell you guys that where we're at right now, these people, from my knowledge and from anything I could find, have never been interrogated.
Wait. What? The brothers who live across the alley?
Across the alley.
Neighbors?
The neighbors.
The boys who were there on Christmas Day?
They were there.
They didn't know.
They were there.
They've never been interviewed by anybody?
Anybody.
What the
At
fuck?
least as far as I can tell.
That doesn't make no sense.
I've talked to some of my sources to get, whether or not they were confirmation.
Yeah.
And the best I can get is I believe they were interviewed. But we don't have any
There's no
concrete proof.
documentation.
Even on a Candy Rose, the ultimate source for JonBenet stuff. If you go there and look, it's an empty bracket. Normally she has a bracket for were these people interviewed, were these people DNA tested. When we get to the Taylors,
there ain't
No
none.
check mark, nothing.
nobody. And we have the brief reference from Steve Thomas in his book about JonBenet, where he mentions that John, in his 1998 interview, threw everybody under the bus as far as the kitchen sink, where it was like an assistant's boyfriend, Pasta J, and Pigsty neighbors.
Oh my God! The Taylors were the Pigsty neighbors.
But did Steve Thomas follow up on this?
Oh my God! Well, and there's no evidence that he did.
Because he had the tunnel vision.
Not that we know of. And I would be interested to know, because that's my main question. Were they? And I don't think from anything we found they had.
This is a really good point, Bobby.
And we also know that, the Ramseys had their own investigative team.
They did.
So it begs the question of wouldn't they have, tried to look into it?
Well, yeah, because especially with some of the things they may have been saying in these interviews, it's almost like they're asking people, hey, look into these neighbors. But then why wouldn't they interview them themselves?
Well, I think John gives a good answer to that.
So you're working with your attorneys?
Well, no, our attorneys are we're not working with our attorneys. We have both paid and volunteer people that are working on this full time. We don't want to say a whole lot about what we're doing, because this kind of investigation should not be a public event, as it has been for the last 3 years. but I can assure you that we are looking, and we're looking hard. We're going to do everything we can. We can't do it all. We're going to do as much as a private citizen can do. Ultimately, we need someone that has the authority of the state with a badge to finish the job.
Because there are certain restrictions that you cannot.
There's certain things we just can't do. We can't subpoena information. We can't demand that people talk to us. We're going to do the best we can and everything we can, but and we're hopeful that we're going to get a huge leap forward when we get that tip that we've been waiting for.
It raises the point of, you can't make these neighbors talk to you.
You can't make them talk to them.
And are the police actually looking as hard as they should? Were they, just shut down?
So...
Or they're like, why push it? Like, they didn't want to talk to us. Like, whatever, move on.
And we know they have a troubled family dynamic. From what...
I mean, my God, they're like, kind of some kind of Terrence Malick listless sort of Nightmare on Elm Street, slow motion, girls jumping, fucking rope, hopscotch nightmare. I mean, the daughter, Brad, she would sit on that swing, that tire swing outside and just swing for hours.
For hours and hours.
Just think to herself alone.
Yeah.
Like,
and like
Rosalind Kennedy.
And the Ramseys, they've said that their friends have been like, is something wrong with her? And they're like, I don't know. I think it's just probably preferable to being inside. Because again, she was the stepdaughter to Tim Taylor.
But then my God. Why? Oh, poor thing.
That's so sad.
Well, was the,
She felt safer outside, than being inside with whatever monster was
just
in there.
swinging.
Just spinning around in circles, staring at her feet, in her
thing.
own little world, Alice in Wonderland, without any of the, precociousness.
The flowers to take the petals off of or anything.
Yeah. And again, as a disclaimer, the only information we have about the Taylor family has come from interviews sourced from John and Patsy.
Weird.
But it's not something that seems to have been...
This is just so fucking weird, Bobby.
It is.
Because they were there that day. The boys were there that day.
Right.
The one boy, he had his penis out in front of Bran outside, exposing something
looking into JonBenet's...
Just, letting her...
looking up at his skirt. Pooping in the bathroom toilet. Which I heard a long time ago.
That was poop found?
In the basement.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was
a turd.
and that was Patsy even attributed in police interviews to that being Mark's.
That's Mark's poop. X marks the poop.
Just because she didn't like to think that Burke...
You're right. X marks the poop.
Yeah, just because she didn't want to think that Burke would be the one to do that.
Yeah, and because they were there that day.
But that also makes sense. And if we want to just bring it back to the note thing too, Burke made an interesting comment on the Dr. Phil in regards to the handwriting.
It's not something I really want to look at a lot,
Right. Does that look like her handwriting?
Honestly, looking at that, she would always bug me about having good handwriting, and she would make me rewrite stuff to try to get me to have good handwriting, and I think it's too sloppy.
Oh my fucking Jesus, Black Jesus.
And I almost kind of agree.
I agree.
No, just kidding.
God damn it. What the fuck, Bobby?
And again,
my
like
mind
I said,
is hurting.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. I could see you just being so confident. We're like, we have this piece of evidence where apparently we're not going to touch the note. There's no fingerprints on it, kind of thing. When you think, you're confident enough, this will maybe lead to the killer.
Yeah.
But if you thought your kid did it, you would have had to have authored it. So it's like I waffle back and forth on this.
It's hard because I've seen enough of the handwriting to know that it matches examples of Patsy's in ways that are incredible.
Right.
And then the close-ups were incredible.
But she's smart, and that's the thing. That's the thing. We know this.
She wouldn't write
She's
her own.
smart. Why would she write?
Create evidence that can be traced back to her? Why would she do that? Knowing that.
That's That's such a great point. Right into the next.
God, Donna.
Clip.
Well, first of all, this is what is going to help us convict the killer. This is 3 pages of handwritten writing samples of the killer. We've been told by experts that if we have a suspect and we get sufficient samples of his writing, they will be able to tell conclusively with this much of a sample that the person wrote that note. So this is a huge clue. Why it was left, I don't know.
Oh my God! Are the Ramseys innocent?
Not innocent, because as we explored, again, no matter what, your mindset would be.
like they're nice about it. They're like, we're gonna rule, like, you know, like we don't know if it was you, but we can't say it wasn't you.
That's
like,
what I don't get.
Like that's like, I mean, and that's just, you know,
I think they
just
thought it was
depends
him.
on how much sway you have.
Well, that's
like,
what I think. They definitely thought it was him for at least, you know, a week or two. And then it slowly dawned on them because he wasn't going to relent. Like, he didn't do it. Where you're like, what do you do at that point? You have to believe that, like, oh, I now fully believe my son didn't do it. So I think that whatever evidence is available will actually.
See, this is where my mind's at, though, then. Okay, we know that JonBenet, her body, like where she was, all that kind of stuff. Like, there's a lot of evidence that's pointing to like that was kind of like maybe staged in a way, like that. Even though it looked like she was strangled to death, and that's how she died, she probably had some sort of like traumatic fracture in her skull that led to some internal bleeding.
Things going on.
Yeah, I've listened to you
found.
fucking talk. Stop talking.
Right.
Don't stop talking. Five.
No, I'm just
Shut the fuck up.
She was agreeing with you.
I don't care. I'm just sick of hearing her. It throws me off.
Okay, keep going.
Anyway,
Right.
the point. Shut up. The point being is that when like there's enough that's weird about that then makes me go, okay, well if that's part of maybe like a staging of some sort, then also the whole idea of there being like her body being found in the house when the whole ransom letter establishes a kind of a scene where she's supposed to be away from the house. A kidnapping is where the person is gone.
Yeah.
They've been taken away.
Which is why
So-
I could lean towards Patsy writing
that letter.
Because you know that you can't just call into 911 and report you
You
found
don't.
her.
Yeah.
Because your advice was you can't be the one to
You
find her.
can't be the one to find her.
So,
You also know where she is.
Yeah. And so
which is why she sat in the sunroom.
with that ransom letter, I like as much as part of me wants to almost go, yeah, I could see a 13-year-old writing that ransom letter. A 13-year-old watching Mel Gibson movies in the 90s. I remember that fucking time eating Pizza Hut, sticking Casper's fucking, hand puppet in my hand and pooping in a toilet and not flushing. But like the point being is that like it only makes sense to me, the Ramseys part of the cover up to even maybe they don't believe their son brain. With Patsy writing that letter versus someone else writing that letter while they're waiting for the Ramseys to come home.
I agree.
Because they have some kind of idea in their mind that they're going to kidnap JonBenet because they know that family has money because they saw all the things they got for Christmas.
What if she rewrote a very childish looking note already though? And used a lot of the same verbiage, thinking that would be enough to.
Like there was another letter
that's what
that
I mean,
was
where
even more childish.
That's what I'm saying. Where you think, oh, this is definitely Burke. Where you don't even want to broach the subject with him. Like, did you write? Like, it's more of like, where's your sister? I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
like when you're an English teacher and you're grading the kids' handwork or homework. You're like, oh wow, I really wish they had done this here.
Because there was
you're
more.
an adult looking at a kid writing a ransom letter. You're like, I can write a better.
And there was more missing pages from that notebook. From that same notebook we know. So maybe she. But again, the theory doesn't live or die in the note. But I just wanted to bring. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I have also this weird feeling of like, why wouldn't the Ramseys just go ahead and even if there was like maybe an indeterminate period after they initially thought Burke might have done it, and maybe they even did the cover up. I mean, granted, but like the point being is that, like, why wouldn't they ever direct the police or tell the police, talk to these neighbors? Why wouldn't their legal team ever figure out a way to go talk to those boys? Or like, like even if they had to, like if there was a moment where like Patsy Ramsey like and these boys were in the hallway at the same time and they saw and they were like, okay, we have to make a pact, like we can't, like for some fucking reason they didn't pursue these neighbors who literally lived feet away from them.
Right.
And had access to their house, and Brent says he regrets leaving the door unlocked, whatever.
Well, and who's to say though?
They were there that day.
Who's to say that though they didn't?
If they can't rule anything out.
Well, because
you have such a short time frame to react.
Well, and yes, and so that's what I'm saying. Like when their initial, first week, they think Burke did it, so they're throwing the fingers out anywhere else. It's only later than when they cooperate with the police that we do actually hear about these people.
Yeah.
But it's also the situation of when it comes to like it has been argumented like, oh, how the Ramseys would point out people in the tabloids.
Yeah.
I think children is the one place the Ramseys wouldn't go in tabloids because they know how it came to their
They
kids.
take a personal.
And John's first deposition that he ever had was from implicating a neighbor to a tabloid not these neighbors, but a different neighbor, where he immediately got sued. And so that was the first time he was deposed. So I think they knew the danger of trying to necessarily implicate other people.
Yeah.
But I think they also then started taking expert opinions where it's like, okay, we now fully believe it's not Burke, but now you're just consumed with what the fuck was the other...
They've resolved
what
in
gets
their
us
mind.
off now.
Yeah.
It's less about like...
Yeah. You still didn't, like, because of the fact that, like, if you did any kind of cover up or any sort of thing because you thought you were doing it for your son's self-interest, like, that shows that you also have, you know, you could still go to prison for that. You know what I mean?
Which is what the grand jury came back with.
Right.
No matter what, out of all the scenarios,
should be
they
charged.
believed that they covered up for the crime.
Yeah.
But when I put myself in the mindset of people waking up with a few hours how to deal with the situation, I almost become empathetic in the way of like, yeah, I would try to defend my son, but how it's now ruined so many lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, being able to see like the butterfly effect like definitely helps, but like I mean, and still at the end of the day, I feel like we would all do the same thing.
Yeah.
If we were in that scenario.
But how tragic would it be is like you knew you took all those steps to cover up for your son, and then you find out, no, it actually wasn't my son. And I've now covered up for the actual murder. But I think justice can still be done if you focus on the evidence. And for me, that explains all of the behavior that I presently see from them or have seen from them. Where it was people who know they fucked up a little bit, but now think that like, oh, we need to actually...
We want to try to still get people directed toward the truth. I mean, how sad that situation of if Patsy and John are like going, Burke, just tell us, like, blah, blah, and Burke's like crying, piss himself or something. Like, I don't know. And they're like, you gotta know something. You know, like just like this moment where it's like, he's like literally telling the truth. They don't believe him deep down. And then they are like, okay, we can't even focus too much on that. We gotta figure this shit out, blah, blah. And then like later on, like, you know what I mean? Like
they probably didn't even tell him that they found her dead. That was more of trying to grill him. But the fact that John is now, they've denied that they even had to have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's what we need to focus on. It's like, they definitely did. He would have denied it.
Absolutely.
What do you do?
No.
You cover it up, but then what if you covered it up for somebody else?
You know,
but you're gonna do that, no questions asked, because
but now
that's
you're gonna
like
regret
the knee-jerk reaction. Like it's just like human instinct. Like, and it's just this is what we see it play out like.
Not for poor people.
If I have a son and like, let's say there's some kind of shit, like just some regular shit, like, I don't know, like, oh, like, how was your day at school or whatever the fuck, blah, 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 blah. Like asking my son, like from his point of view of anything, it's like, you know, second nature. It's like, whatever. And on the night that his sister's body is disappeared and eventually, you know, found dead, like for me to tell the fucking world with like full fucking like, you know, confidence, like, oh, it's normal that I never asked my son about that night, even when there is documented evidence that my son said that for whatever reason, whether he's covering my ass or whatever, that something that conflicted with my official narrative that I'm trying to say is the only thing that's ever been said, but it isn't, because now there's new journalists who are smarter and able to come and kind of synthesize a lot more things. Of like, no, well, Burke said that he went downstairs. Like, are you saying that he didn't do it? And then, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, well, I've literally never talked to him about it. That's bullshit.
That's the indicator of that.
You asked your kid what they want for dinner.
But you should have said that you did talk about it.
But that's the
like,
problem.
You did discuss it.
But that's the thing. I think them telling everyone that, yeah, if we initially suspected Burke, shines a light on him. They know that, which is why that's never... It's completely excluded from the narrative entirely.
Right.
If you say that they like, but any logical parent would be like, yeah, I did initially suspect my son. But they have glossed over that entirely, because I think it was an event that actually took place, which led to them covering up something that might not necessarily.
And if they never even like talked about the possibility of it, then it could not possibly materialize to being like something that is even possible.
But then why would you even say anything in an interview about like, well, if people look at the handwriting and they'll see it was a young child with movie references, blah, blah, blah.
I mean,
why would you say that stuff, but then not use the same dark magic law mechanics that you have with the people you're paying tons of money to ever, you know, figure out a loophole way to associate those kids as the culprits? Why would you never ever once?
Well, because it's tricky. And again, number one, you can't publicly implicate children like that, because again, I think they wouldn't
couldn't publicly do it, Bobby, but they could have.
And again, they're private investigators. like he said in that interview, could only do so much. They don't have subpoena power, and they can't make people talk to them. So they're only left up to whether or not did the Boulder police actually talk to these people.
But that's the thing. If they, like we talked about the tabloids, you know, and what if like, and how they had, there was one tabloid they preferred and one tabloid that they, you know.
Right.
And it's like, why do we never get a tabloid story about these neighbors?
That's what I was just explaining. Because I don't think they'd go there. And also John early on tried to do that. His first ever lawsuit was him implicating a neighbor to the tabloid, and he got sued.
Him doing it. Oh, but he talked to the tabloid.
Yeah,
but if they had John St. Augustine talk to a tabloid or somebody random where it couldn't be a tie to them in that present moment.
Well, to do what? To spook them?
To be a headline that maybe to spook, or maybe to suggest like, oh, people should be asking questions about them, but they never, ever did anything.
Because I think they were probably maybe threatened with some sort of litigation or something, or once you hit the roadblock of, oh, the dad being like, we're not going to talk to you. That's it. You can't do anything as PIs.
They can't do anything.
But like I said, it's only left up to them to know whether or not Boulder is going to investigate it as well.
Well, but the fact is, like Steve Thomas has never ever once mentioned, you know, actually interviewing the what do they call it, Pony Boy White Trash neighbors?
Pigsty.
Pigsty.
It's probably because he hasn't.
Well, but also it's like one of those things of like, I don't know if there was more public pressure on him because there was anonymous sources saying shit to tabloids about this family, just like they said about everybody else in this whole fucking, you know, Marvel Cinematic JonBenet.
Well, like I said, I think it got to a point where they were just willing to like listen to other people and like whatever angle you wanted to point it that made us look innocent, because they did know they participated in a certain part of the crime.
Yeah.
And there's also the chance that they didn't actually suspect them, you know? They were actually looking for like an adult or something like that, just listening to the advice of their investigators and John Douglas and stuff like that, but not realizing that it might have been right across the alley. It's like that movie, Mystic River. But I really want to get back to real quick, just within the days of the murder situation. We have Pam Griffin, one of their neighbors, who recounted a few events of being present for shortly in the aftermath.
Okay.
One of the events that she recalls is that Pam found John in the living room holding Burke. To Pam, Ramsey seemed to be in a trance. His face was blank. His eyes were red. I don't get it, he said over and over. Then he got up, walked outside, shook his head, and asked aloud, why? With an exclamation point. It's a situation where I could see this being a thing where these parents are very much struggling with, this has to be my kid.
Like, you know, it's biblical.
But then coming to terms with it's not.
Why? I mean, my God.
Because it's dark and like something we don't want to admit.
Well, it's like, you know, almost searching
It's
for
ugly.
answers in this deep pit that you're suddenly thrown into.
Ooh.
And, you know, you're confronting all these fears, and then those fears even being challenged, like, oh, you were, you know, led to that conclusion because you feared the worst, but you were meant to. But now here's something different, and now you're even fucked from getting any sort of greater, like, you know.
Exactly.
And you find yourself like, you know, defending your kids, and then you're like, wait, like I'm trying to defend myself, like.
But also
like,
the thing is,
so much bigger.
You fucked it up.
Exactly.
You didn't really defend your kid in the moment when it mattered.
It's a
You didn't
tragedy.
believe him.
Right, exactly.
And as a result, you compromised everything.
led to-
That's the stain where everybody's now going to always think it's him, and you're always going to have to live with the fact that you can't go after the people that you know better because you compromised the scene, and it implicates you.
but
in
maybe
some
that
fashion.
DNA is your saving grace.
And there are some truths. There are some truths that you can say, like, I did not kill her. Like, that is something they can say with 100% confidence on a.
Why have they never gone
on a camera, on like a polygraph? Like,
When she
on
says like
anything.
Patsy Ramsey doesn't know, John
Right,
Ramsey
like,
doesn't know, Steve
because
Thomas
they
doesn't know.
didn't. I believe that they didn't.
That's
There's
what I
a
think
part
too.
of them that thought that like he could, like even like my son Brent could have done this, you know.
Right.
There's a reason why. I mean, imagine how many times have we seen on the news parents going through tragedy. They're seeing their kids were ripped from their arms, they died in a car accident, murder, all kinds of things, and the passion and the sadness, the volume, the screams, the shouts, the rage that the mothers express in front of the local news cameras. And yet I've never heard from the Ramseys, you know, hot tears flicking from their eyes as they shake their heads and red in the face. My son was never Instead, it's always been like, I can confidently say I did not participate in this specific thing related to the question you're talking about. And that final. That's final, John, and whatever. And it's like one of those things because deep down, even if we were to say, let's say that there's something to all this that we talked about today, and there is something of even in the moment when they first question their own flesh and blood son, the only surviving child in front of them, they did not believe him because there's something in him that they fear could have done it, and that's why even subconsciously and exploitively from like the source, whenever any in a public interaction or any interview they've done, any media we have, they've never exhorted something that's been so like definitively I don't know, righteous, that feels like, oh wow, actually I really believe that they don't believe Burke did it or that they didn't do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think they did come around to that eventually, because we have the Patsy with the God knows who you are.
I have a faith that comes from only one source. God knows who killed JonBenet Ramsey. Steve Thomas does not know, Patsy Ramsey does not know, and John Ramsey does not know. God knows, and the truth is going to prevail.
Where it almost feels like it's admonishing like a child type thing. Yeah. But back to what you were saying with like the whole American type thing of it, that did bring up an interesting point where, again, within a few days of the murder, they go on CNN and there's this very interesting clip where it seems to be like, if you were going to cover up a murder, you had these things on your mind.
You know, America has just been hurt so deeply with the tragic things that have happened. The young woman who drove her children into the water, and we don't know what happened with the O.J. Simpson. And I mean, America is suffering because they have lost faith in the American family.
Wait, what the fuck was she talking about? I'm like, wait.
I think
from your dumb lips to God's words.
Again, this was in the first week of it. I think that shows the mindset of somebody, because she wouldn't have been able to have been coached because she's so fucking drugged up.
Oh, yeah.
The mindset of somebody who is immediately seeing what all of this looks like when she stumbles upon it. She knows in her mind, oh, this is going to look like maybe I did it. She also knows how DNA worked with the OJ things, where these are things front of mind. Even from a drugged out person, I think it was a very telling.
But she has the like resources to have people around her that are able to like help her in the situation. And be like, hey, maybe you should do this instead. Like, hey, like you shouldn't say anything anymore.
And they
like,
really, and they did do that.
They tried to.
Into a position where she's like not like she's gonna evade like any responsibility. Like,
I mean, but in that moment, most of the time,
now,
in that moment, that was right days after.
That was raw. That was
New Year's, and before all those people swooped in.
Right.
And in that time, she was like, "Oh my fucking god!" Like, people that are gonna see the details that they're gonna see of this are gonna immediately assume it's us because they are already so jaded and broken because of other things that they're hearing.
Maybe we had an incident at the Christmas party, and we know Fleet's gonna think this is.
Well, this is early times of media too, where like you believe everything you see on TV,
and they knew that. That's
like, you know, and that's like something that was very exploited.
And there were no podcasts like None Us. There was no like even like, I mean, people talk slower then, and there's just things where there wasn't that much information. People, I think, were much more like in the hands of, you know, whoever was making the narrative of any documentary or whatever, but they chose to include, exclude, where and when they.
But now everybody's been sued into silence.
And
nobody wants to really speak out against them.
Yeah. I mean, we see even now. I mean, you know, we're getting puff pieces made by, you know, that are being promoted to us via, you know, Netflix and shit. Of what's supposed to be like an actual investigative or like searing or like brand new sort of or revelatory sort of documentary by some award-winning documentarian.
It's nothing.
And it was literally like a fucking propaganda
so
piece.
Biased.
Like, and it's just like not even trying anymore.
Right.
And it's like that's not how documentaries existed. Documentaries, you know, even just investigative journalism was actually like, you know, acts of rebellion to like shed a light on things that created change.
Well, maybe back then.
Back then, well, that's
but
exactly
like
what I'm
things
fucking
that
saying.
but things are different now.
I'm
like,
not arguing that, you
what?
fucking rat. I mean, it's just a matter of nowadays, no one's really gonna pull and investigate things except us. We're doing it with this.
Well, other people are too now that they've seen the Netflix doc.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's also important context for you guys to understand where our prime suspect Mark Taylor and possibly his older brother Randy, who was 13, could have been involved in this. And I think it's important for you to understand where they are now. So let's get into where are the Taylors now? Where are these 3 children? Okay?
Yeah.
Let's first focus on Mark. The 10-year-old at the time, who was as close to Burke's age,
The
a little
youngest.
peeping Tom, a little ahead of his age.
Looking up JonBenét skirts.
While looking them up, I found a web sleuth post from somebody who seems to have been aware of the goings-ons of what was happening.
Okay.
This is from 2021. Mark is my age, a year older than Burke. He still lives in that house and is blonde, tallish maybe. What if Joe Barnhill saw him, not John Andrew, all that night, and told him, and was told to forget it? Blah, blah, blah. That's not important. The more important thing was that he'd mentioned that he still lives in that house. So I looked into it. And yeah, Mark, growing now into a full adult,
he's a man now,
had been living in the family home well into adulthood.
Wow.
Like
I looked
what? Yeah.
All of the years until 2022. I found that he was employed by a used and new furniture store.
Which are the best ones?
Right, where he was a furniture maker. And I found like the Instagram where it seems to be he's like made some tables and branded them and stuff like that.
He made new furniture, not old furniture.
Right, but they also sold older furniture, so I'd be interested to see the sheets. But he worked there for 17 years before they closed down during the pandemic.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. Casualty of me.
Right after that, his father, Tim Taylor, passes away, the environmentalist.
Oh, no. That's sad.
And now, shortly after that, it was within, I believe it was 2023, he moved to his brother Randy's house out in California.
Oh. He live out in Randy's house?
Yeah. And I've looked into it, and it's actually owned by Randy's now wife. It's in her name,
Carmela Soprano,
and she lives out in Maryland with Randy, who now has Burke's ideal dream career.
What's that?
Basically, he's a pilot instructor for the Air Force.
Oh wow!
Ambitious,
manned and unmanned.
Took his destiny. Mm-hmm. Wow! You know what my dream career is? Making ice cream pizza.
Oh,
well, I think that'd be fun to spin. It'd be cold though.
It's not out of reach, so
you can make ice cream pizza easy.
Super cool.
I know how to do it.
Okay.
I mean, we could talk about it.
Go for it, buddy. What's involved?
So, I mean, ice cream pizza. Think about it like this way, okay? What is ice cream? It's frozen cream, right?
Yeah.
Right. Frozen cream is made from milk. So is pizza dough. Similar ingredients. Yeast.
I'm sorry. So the ice cream is the dough?
Ice cream is the dough, and then you put more ice cream on top of it, but in the shape of toppings.
Okay.
So you can have like a frozen pizza of like, oh, look, that's a mushroom, and that's a green pepper, and that's a spicy Italian meatball. But you take a bite, it's just ice cream.
So it's like an ice cream
colored
cake.
like that.
Ice cream cake.
Savory.
Yeah.
Savory ice cream.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's not flavored like it.
No, but it's savory.
It's flavored sweet.
This is your dream?
Like,
but to
Why
make
haven't
it
you just done
Bobby,
it? Why haven't you just done it?
Do you know the price of cream these days?
Okay.
I mean,
why don't you just get different types of ice cream?
Stop attacking me for telling you about my dream.
I'm just saying, if that was your ultimate dream, that's something we could accomplish very easily.
But we can make an ice cream pizza. I can show you. No, don't worry about it.
You haven't done it yet?
I'm not even gonna charge you.
You haven't done it yet.
I'm figuring it out.
Good idea.
The key is you gotta keep it cold. You gotta be in a cold place. You gotta be under a bridge, an acapella, Piccolo.
Archipelago.
Damn.
Right.
Anyway, his dream was being a pilot veterinarian.
Yeah, Randy's was the 13-year-old. The one that Patsy described as basically being still kind of childish, like into rollerblading in Nintendo 64 at 13. Jesus. Which is a weird age to consider that they were immature.
Yeah, playing rollerblading.
The oldest sister, Brad, stayed pretty close to home as well. Also just ended up getting a job at like a tech company.
Yeah.
Seems like a pretty quiet life kind of thing. But we do know, again, Mark, the little kid, lived at home for most of his life. The one who...
With his dad.
With the dad there. Who the dad ended up dying in 2022.
And now he lives at a house that's owned by his brother's wife.
His brother. And also looking into Tim Taylor's father, by the way, real quick.
Right.
I just found it interesting to note. He worked for Lockheed Martin as well.
Oh, my God.
He worked for Lockheed Missiles and Space for 23 years as the manager of remotely piloted vehicle project and director of business development for the R&D division.
What the motherfucker?
R&D division. R&D is the...
That's alien stuff.
That's the secret shit.
Oh.
But it's just interesting that his son, Tim Taylor, then didn't really follow the father's footsteps. He kind of, again, he wrote articles for the Boulder Daily Camera where he kind of said that, like, corporations are bad.
Right.
Kind of thing. He had the exact opposite mind of his actual father.
Oh my God, which just happens. We switch.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like strange how then...
The Lockheed thing. Just the connection where it's like, we got another...
How close like Lockheed is, how big of a seminal role it plays in the
back.
building of even Boulder, But also Lockheed is a very particular type of company. It's not like, Hasbro, and it's a town full of toy people. It's a town where it's like there's secrets.
It's basically Tesla.
And there's
like
intelligence.
It's Tesla with a military contract.
Yeah.
Smarter than Tesla.
Yeah,
Fuck Tesla.
It's way more secret than Tesla. Tesla doesn't have like security clearances.
Tesla isn't reverse engineering fucking, crashed and recovered extraterrestrial technology.
But again, it's just interesting to note that the father's father was like that, and he seemed to go the opposite direction. But he had a very 30-year career with the state of Colorado, so he had some tenure there.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something. I mean, there's a lot to this family that then it does stand out to me how weird it is that they never once ever done my interview.
That we know of.
And so that's something that I think even in the service of you doing this investigation, and I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be mulling stuff over, but I never in a million years would have thought, maybe I'm wrong,
right?
And maybe I need to consider.
I mean, not necessarily wrong, because again, I've been sitting on this for a month, where I keep seeing these Reddit posts come up where people ask these certain questions, and when I think of this theory, it's like that answers your question that they ask, and I can't stop thinking through the lens of no matter what they covered up for Burke, but what if, these other children were there.
Yeah. What if there was some weird thing? These other children who were already there that day.
That's what's more important. They were last in the house.
Can't be ruled out.
Yeah.
You want to believe that your kid doesn't have anything to do with it. You'll do anything to make that reality.
Donna, Jesus fucking Christ. Did you fucking fart, Donna? Oh, that smells terrible.
No, it's these snacks I got you.
God, it smells like you got a fucking tapeworm that's trying to kill itself inside you.
Just here, let me add out.
Oh, God.
You smell that, Bobby?
I do.
You'll like it if you
Stop talking about it.
It just needs to get some
Stop buying snacks at Whole Foods.
You're fucking making me feel horrible. I can't breathe. I can't.
Don't think about it.
All right, guys. Well, what'd you think? What do you think? Do you think we covered all the ground?
I mean, I think we did a pretty good job. I just can't even stand to be in this room no more with her.
I want to do another part on this because honestly, I want to reach out to these people, and I also I want to get a clear answer on whether or not they were officially investigated. Because I can't fully indicate, other people in the murder if I don't know that these people were cleared. Because the proximity, the opportunity, motive.
We need to hear from them.
Yeah.
Even just for them being in such close proximity to all this and knowing them, I'd be curious to know, what was it like being friends with the Ramsey children, and just whatever they might say, let alone anything related to potentially their possible involvement.
They were weird.
Well, that's only we know that from the Ramseys.
The Ramseys
but
are weird.
We don't know that it was investigated, and that's my hitch. So,
wow, Bobby.
Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know what you think in the comments. Again, join us on our Patreon, patreon.com/JonBenet
Come on, just
today.
fucking join us.
Just
support us.
We get bonus material.
What do we do? Fucking dance for you?
Teddy will dance for you.
Teddy's a great dancer.
If we get enough Patreons, Teddy will upload a live dance.
Oh, you have no idea.
Well, that was fantastic. Donna, you ready to get the rickshaw?
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. Well, I love you guys. Thank you for coming.
Love you too, and like you too, Donna.
Oh, Happy New Year.
Happy News, everybody. Hey, well, I'm Bobby Pavlovsky.
I'm Daddy Ronald Reagan. Just Mickey.
And this is
JonBenet today.
But you need justice.
And we need justice, absolutely.